The turning point described by Mira of the Pleiadian High Council begins with something much older than the coming 3 days of darkness. It begins with the moment Earth was moved away from its natural energetic rhythm. According to this transmission, humanity has been living inside an altered planetary system for a very long time, and that system is now reaching the point where it can no longer hold its original structure. The magnetic correction of Earth is advancing, the old energetic architecture is weakening, and the transition ahead is connected directly to what was done to this planet in the distant past. Mira takes us back to the intervention of the Annunaki, who entered Earth's development with a very different intention from the civilizations that worked in alignment with the wider galactic field. Their intervention changed the energetic conditions around the planet and created an environment where consciousness became denser and more limited. Earth was gradually separated from the natural flow connecting worlds, dimensions, and higher levels of awareness. This was the beginning of a system designed to keep humanity inside a much narrower range of perception. The artificial moon became one of the central pieces of that system. Mira explains that the moon was placed into Earth's orbit to stabilize a rotation that had already been altered. Its function went far beyond controlling tides or marking cycles in the night sky. It helped maintain the magnetic conditions that kept Earth inside this reversed configuration. Once that structure was established, the planet could remain stable while operating in a state that was disconnected from its original galactic rhythm. This also changes the way the moon is understood within Mira's message. Across many older traditions, the moon was personified and worshipped through many lunar deities. Within Mira's transmission, those traditions came later. Humanity gave sacred meaning to the moon after generations of living beneath its influence, while its original function was technological and energetic. This altered state affected more than the physical movement of Earth. It changed the energetic field surrounding the planet and gradually influenced human consciousness itself. Communication with higher dimensions became weaker. The ability to perceive realities beyond the physical world faded. Humanity began to identify almost entirely with the dense material experience around it, while the memory of its larger origin moved deeper into the subconscious. Over generations, this became normal because people were born inside the system and knew nothing else. That energetic isolation also created the conditions where fear could become one of the strongest forces shaping human life. When consciousness loses direct contact with its wider nature, control becomes easier because reality begins to feel smaller. People become dependent on external structures to tell them what is real, what is possible, and what they should fear. Mira describes this as one of the deepest consequences of the Anunnaki intervention. Humanity remained powerful at its core, yet much of that power became inaccessible because the surrounding field kept consciousness focused inside a limited range. This is where the present moment becomes important. The system that maintained that separation is being corrected. Mira says the magnetic adjustment of Earth began moving more visibly in 2009, when the planet entered a gradual process of realignment. This correction had to happen slowly because the magnetic field influences every living system on Earth. A sudden shift would create enormous instability, so the process has been unfolding in stages while galactic forces work around the planet to support the transition. The fleets described in the transmission are directly involved in this work. Pleiadian, Arcturian, and other advanced civilizations are interacting with the magnetic grid, stabilizing areas of pressure and preparing Earth for the next stage. Their vessels operate through consciousness and electromagnetic intelligence, which allows them to work with the planetary field in ways that physical technology cannot. Their role is to help the planet move through this correction without losing the stability required for life to continue. As this process advances, the correction eventually reaches a threshold where gradual adjustment is no longer enough. Earth enters a point where the old configuration has to release completely before the new alignment can stabilize. This is where the 3 days of darkness enter the message. They are connected directly to the final stage of the magnetic reset. The planet moves through a temporary pause while the field reorganizes itself and the old energetic pattern loses its hold. During this period, Mira describes the magnetic field behaving very differently from what we experience today. Sunlight no longer reaches the surface in the normal way because the field temporarily reflects or redirects the solar energy while the reset takes place. Electrical systems stop functioning because the electromagnetic environment supporting them is changing at the planetary level. Nature becomes unusually still, and the human body enters a state that reflects the larger pause taking place across Earth. The deeper importance of those 3 days is what happens to perception. The same field that kept humanity energetically isolated begins to dissolve, and the barriers between dimensions become much thinner. Consciousness starts receiving information through channels that have been suppressed for generations. People become more aware of presences around them and of realities that were previously outside their normal range. The transition becomes internal as much as planetary because the magnetic field and human consciousness have always been connected. This explains why the 3 days of darkness are so central in Mira's message. They represent the moment when the old planetary operating system finally releases. The darkness itself is simply the visible effect of something much larger happening within the magnetic structure of Earth. The real event is the removal of the energetic conditions that kept humanity separated from higher frequencies. Once those conditions disappear, consciousness begins responding to a very different environment. That change also affects the structures built during the old cycle. Systems based on fear and manipulation depend on a particular frequency to remain stable. When the planetary field rises beyond that range, those systems begin losing coherence because the energy supporting them is no longer available in the same way. This is why Mira connects the magnetic transition with the dismantling of underground operations, hidden programs, and long-standing networks of control. These structures belong to the same energetic architecture that is now being removed. The disclosure process is part of this shift as well. Information that remained hidden becomes harder to contain because the field supporting secrecy is weakening. People begin perceiving connections more easily and questioning systems that once appeared permanent. The changes happening within governments and institutions reflect a deeper change taking place in consciousness. The old structure is losing the energetic agreement that allowed it to continue. As Earth completes this correction, humanity enters a new planetary phase. The relationship between consciousness and reality becomes more direct, and people begin experiencing the world through a wider range of perception. The separation between physical and multidimensional awareness becomes thinner, while contact with higher levels of intelligence becomes increasingly natural. The planet starts operating within a field that is much closer to its original alignment with the wider cosmos. This is why Mira places so much importance on what is happening now. The 3 days of darkness are part of a much larger transition that began long before this generation arrived. The artificial system is reaching the end of its cycle, the magnetic correction is advancing, and the next stage brings Earth into a completely different relationship with consciousness and the galactic environment around it. If you want to hear Mira's full original transmission exactly as it was received, you can find it on Patreon through the link in the description. Thank you for receiving this message. For those who feel a deeper connection with the Pleiadian field, my Pleiadian Light Language album is now available through the link in the description. This album brings together 4 mantra transmissions in Pleiadian Light Language. Each chant carries a distinct frequency and guides you into a deeper experience of remembrance, healing, connection, and stellar awakening. You're about to hear a short excerpt from one of the tracks in the album, so you can feel its frequency for yourself. See you very soon.